education programs. This slide shows This slide shows the 4 areas of our education program. The team scientist development work is really carried out by Mike and his team, and you already heard a report on some of the successes and outcomes of that effort. The Sustainable Urban Water Undergraduate Research Program is what we'll talk with you about in a minute. We also hope to initiate citizen science programs starting this coming year. And Daryl Jenred has already expressed considerable interest in this and sent out an email asking for input about that. I put citizen science as one of the topics of an affinity group. That would happen on, because of my availability, that would happen on Friday morning, would be the best time for that. So Friday morning at breakfast, I hope that people join us to talk about citizen science. It probably shouldn't surprise you that our hope for citizen science is that it be a bottom-up effort, and so we're waiting to hear from the scientists who might also hear from stakeholders what citizen science efforts might make sense for UWIN. And finally, MASDAC is actually taking the lead on the Sustainable Urban Water MOOC, and I see there's a poster about that, and I think we'll be hearing more from MASDAC about that later. So we're going to be talking with you today about the Undergraduate Research Program. These were the goals that we established for the URP, to contribute to UWIN research, to accelerate student learning and development of their identity and competence as scholars, to promote diversity within UWIN, and to actually a new goal that we added as we started developing this undergraduate research program with its theme of transdisciplinary learning in urban water sustainability, that we were starting to already learn about how students do transdisciplinary learning, and so we added a goal to our for our undergraduate research program, kind of a research program about the research program. So, so those are our goals, and now for the rest of our talk, I'm going to turn the baton over to Aude Lochet, who's the undergraduate research program coordinator stationed with me at Cary Institute. Aude.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. So, as Alan said, I'm the coordinator for the undergraduate research program. I know some of you by emails or phone conversation, and it's very nice to finally meet you in person. So, I'm going to present the program first, and then I will spend a little bit of time talking about the very first results of our evaluation of the program. So the major goals that we have for our students who enter the program is to build a foundation for a good research career if they choose one. So which means that we want the students to develop their research and inquiry skills. We want them to feel confident about their ability to do research. And we also want them to start building their network and relationships that are going to be useful for their future career. We want the students to gain deeper knowledge in new approaches to urban water sustainability. And we also want them to develop skills and motivation for transdisciplinary work. So the URP, Undergraduate Research Program, is a collaborative effort among the program directors, Alan, Elie Bouzet from Princeton, and Jessica Bolson from FYU. The evaluators, Shirley Vincent and Sumedha Rao from the National Council for Science and the Environment, and myself as the program coordinator. So the program is 8 weeks long. We started June 6th and it ended last week on July 29th. It starts with a 3-day kickoff meeting at CSU, where that gives a chance to the students to meet. And the major activity we do during this kickoff meeting is a case study that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So the bottom picture that you see is the students working on the case study during the kickoff meeting, and the top picture is a hike that we did at the end of the very first day of the meeting. So students do their research project, but we also have enrichment activities that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And the program offers $4,000 of stipend, on-campus or nearby housing, $400 of food allowance, and travel costs. So for the first year of the program, we got 265 applications, which is pretty good for our first year.
How many?
265 applications. So most of our applicants were female, 64% were female, 23% were from underrepresented minorities, and we got applications from students at the freshman level, sophomore, junior, and senior levels. But most of our applicants were sophomore and juniors. If we look at the participant pool, we had 10 students, and pretty much reflects the applicant pool. So we had mostly female participants, 9 girls and 1 boy. We had 30% of our students who were from underrepresented minorities, and we got half of our participants were juniors, and we got a couple of sophomore and senior students. And most of our students were from research university. Only 3 of them were from liberal arts colleges. Yeah?
What are non-underrepresented minorities?
White, Asian, mostly.
And female?
It was just about underrepresented minorities are just about ethnicities. So here are our 10 students for this year. 10 students, they were at 7 different institutions. We had 2 Lauras at Princeton. Marcia was at Berkeley. Audrey and George were at the University of Arizona. Mary and Sophia were here at CSU. Brian was at FYU. Alana was at Arizona State University. And we had 1 more Laura at UMBC. And these are the different projects they were working on. So I indicated the mentors, so you get an idea of who was involved. And this is the way I grouped the project. So we had projects more about social sciences, projects more about engineering, and projects about environmental sciences. So if you look at the details, for social sciences, we had a student working on increasing comfort to urban heat by evaporative cooling. We had a student working on household characteristics on water demand. Another student working on household willingness to adopt water conservation technology. And 1 student working on flooding as a driver for sustainable governance at the local level. For the engineering projects, we had a student working on the hydrology of urban flooding in Baltimore, a student working on the effects of water on energy budget of urban pavements, a student working on energy efficiency and heat recovery from water recycling systems, and another one working on heat recovery from wastewater. And finally, we had 2 students working in more environmental science projects, 1 on hydrology and hydraulics of urban floodings, and 1 on decomposition in urban areas in across the climate gradient. So there was a wide variety of projects. So we gave the students a schedule of research milestones. So 2 weeks into the program, they gave a presentation of their research plan. And a few days after that, they had to give us a research proposal. At the end of the program, they presented the results of their research during a virtual final symposium. And we expect the students to give us their final papers by the end of this month or the beginning of September. So I told you there are some enrichment activities. So some of them were during the kickoff meeting and others were during the summer. We met about twice a week virtually using GoToMeeting. So the activities were of different kinds. They had skill-oriented workshops. They had writing workshops, one on how to write research proposals, and the other one was on how to write research papers. They had an introduction to R and MATLAB, and they had a communication workshop. We did a career-related workshop that was mostly a discussion about graduate school. We had some transdisciplinary research workshops, and the major activity for that was the case studies during the kickoff meeting. So this case study was designed by Alex Maas, one of the mentors for this year. And the students had to think about how they would solve the mismatch between water demand and supply that is expected to occur in Colorado. So that was a good way for the students to think about how they would solve a real-world problem in sustainability by integrating knowledge from different disciplines. And we also gave them the chance to reflect on what they had learned during the case study. They had a team building training as well as a diversity training. And also with this idea of trying to have our students think a little bit more outside their box, we had the seminar series where they got to hear about urban water sustainability from different perspectives. The ecology perspective, the ethics perspective, the engineering, or the urban planning perspective. So they had quite a bit of stuff going on. So now that I've talked about the program, I wanted to spend a little time talking about the evaluation of the program. So the evaluation is definitely Shirley's area of expertise, but there are a few things that I wanted to share with you during this talk. And the first thing is that we give students a survey to fill out at the beginning and at the end of the program. So we are trying to capture how much, how they actually benefit for the program. And the students filled out their post-program survey on Friday, so it's very new, and you're going to see just preliminary results. There are plenty of things that we ask the students. They are not short surveys. But of particular interest are, what goals do students achieve? How does students' confidence grow during the summer? And how does the program influence students' future education? This is what I'm going to talk about briefly today. So we asked the students at the end of the program to rate their agreement with different statements that reflect the goals of the program. And I'm going to show you the results for the statements related to research and knowledge and social goals. And student responses were whether they strongly agreed, remained neutral, disagreed, or strongly disagreed with all the different statements. So this is how I'm going to present the results. For each statement, there is the percentage of each type of response. Dark blue being strongly agree, to bright red being strongly disagree. So all of our students agreed or strongly disagreed. Agreed or strongly agreed that they gained deeper knowledge in urban water sustainability. All of them except one agreed or strongly agreed that they acquired strong research and inquiry skills. They become more confident in their ability to do independent research, and they began to understand the rewards and challenges of transdisciplinary research. For the acquisition of skills and practice in connecting their research to policy management, communication, and education, the results are more mixed. We've got a couple of students who disagreed with that, and that might have been to do with the fact that some of them simply did not have the chance to actually connect their research to something else during their research projects. So this is something I'm going to have to look into. For the social statements, all students agreed or strongly agreed that they learned how to effectively interact with their colleagues, advisors, and mentors. And all students except a couple were comfortable to interact with others in the virtual setting. So I was happy to see that most students were happy with the virtual setting, because that was it's a gamble, right? I mean, virtual setting can work or it cannot. And it seems working pretty well. I mean, we still have students that are not totally excited about it, but most of them were, so that's good. Now, switching to their confidence and how it grows over the summer, we asked the students to, yeah, now I see that I write something wrong. Rate your confidence, okay, in your ability to engage in different kinds of activities. So we asked this question at the end of the program, and we asked them, please remember how confident were you at the beginning of the program, and tell us how confident you are now. So it's a retrospective pre-program survey, basically. And the student responses were either they were not at all confident, minimally confident, somewhat, moderately, or extremely confident. And I'm going just for activities related to their research. So the blue bars are their confidence at the beginning of the program. So the longer the bars, the more confident they were. And you can see that students were mostly confident in their ability to read and understand scientific journals, journal articles, and writing a scientific research paper. And they were least confident in their ability to design effective research methods and approaches and interpret scientific findings in the context of current knowledge in the field. So if you are very confident in something when you start a program, then you are going to gain less because there's just no room for improvement. So this is basically what we see. We see that the students gain less in activities for which they entered pretty confident in the program. So we see less gain for read and understand scientific journal articles and write scientific research papers. And on the other hand, they gained more in designing effective research methods and interpreting their scientific findings. So that's pretty much what we expected. But what's interesting is, so I'm showing you the gains, the average gain, but if you look at the variability among students, you can see that some activities, I mean, some students gain more or less. The gain in confidence, I mean, vary students basically. So, and that's one of the things that we're interested in. Why are some students gaining more confidence than others? Is it because of the mentors? Is it because of the research project? Is it because, you know, they are at the sophomore level or junior, or so? Is there some maturity effect going on here? I mean, these are the questions that would be interesting to pursue in the future. And the last thing is how the program influenced their future education. And for that, we asked the students to what's the highest degree they would like to, they are planning to pursue. And we asked that question at the beginning and at the end of the program. And basically, the program seemed to confirm their interest in grad school. So the way you would interpret this graph is, we had one student who said wanted to do a PhD at the beginning of the program, and the student still wanted to do a PhD at the end of the program. We had 6 students who wanted to do a master's at the beginning of the program, and they were still thinking about master's at the end of the program. And we had 1 student who wanted to do a master's at the beginning of the program, and the student said that she would do a PhD at the end. And we had 1 student who kind of lost interest in grad school, I guess, and he went from master's to bachelor's degree. Yeah, and the field they are mostly interested in, so it's mostly urban planning and engineering. And we had a few students talking about natural resources conservation, geosciences, and community development. So I would say that for this first year, the program has been pretty successful. We still have a lot to do regarding, you know, the evaluation of the program and analyze the data, but it seems like the students left the program thinking that they had learned a lot, which is great. And we are aware that there are some flaws and, you know, there are things we can improve. We actually asked the mentors their inputs on that, and they should fill out a survey soon to let us know about that. But what we identified as some of the main issues were, the length of the program. It's 8 weeks, and it's kind of tight. So is there a way we could have a longer program? And the other thing is having students at different institutions is kind of challenging, because if you're one student at one institution on one program, you might feel a little lonely. And I know that this is how some of the students felt. So is there a way we can improve that as well? With that, I would like to acknowledge some of the people who really helped us with this program: Nasta, Carleen, Sarah, and Megan earlier in the program. And of course, I would like to thank very much all the mentors for this summer. So I don't know, Alan, is there... Yeah, Alan has some other things. Okay.
So just in the last couple of minutes, and maybe we'll have a little bit, I'd like to have a little bit of time for some questions. So just kind of where are we at? We're definitely, nothing has happened to dissuade us from running this program again next summer. Okay, but between now and then, we have the opportunity to apply for an RU site grant, which would give us participant support costs and also a tiny little bit towards Aude's salary, which combined with UWIN monies for salary and maybe even to supplement participant support costs could let us continue the program, make it a longer program, but not have to cut down on the number of students. So we have some key decisions we want to make, and it's a little bit of, so the short term, we're writing a proposal, it's due August 24th. You all have received, you should have received, and if you didn't, it's because you're not on the list that I got of the kind of currently potentially active mentor pool of UWIN people. But anybody in UWIN who could potentially mentor a student, I've asked you to send me an indication that you're interested in, you're willing to be listed in the proposal. I can't actually, there's not room in the proposal to list more than around 10 people and their projects. I need a little paragraph that can reviewers that we have good projects. The projects, to be convincing, have to seem like they're really cutting-edge research, and that the student's not just going to be a research assistant doing your bidding. It's got to be obvious that the student can do an independent research project within. Oh, that's tricky, because you want to give something specific enough to convince your colleagues that this is good science, but not convince your colleague that you're just looking for an RA. So that's kind of my advice, and if I do any rewriting of project descriptions in the proposal, that's the spirit of the rewriting, is to hit that mark. So you all should have an email from me asking for you to send me those things. I gave you a fairly ridiculously short deadline. I think it was Friday. So I thought that here we are all together, and now would be a good time, during the break tonight, tomorrow morning, for you to send me a paragraph. And if you're going to be listed in the proposal, unfortunately, you're also going to need to provide your 2-page CV and your bios, NSF-style 2-page CV, and current and pending, and also your conflict of interest list as an Excel file, preferably. The 2-page CV for this proposal, ideally, you'd include publications that had undergraduate co-authors, and they would be starred. And in your synergistic activities, 1 or 2 of them might discuss your mentoring experience. Those are things that the reviewers look at when they review these proposals. Our short-term, our thinking is that to get to 10 weeks, we're either going to have to cut down on the number of students, and I think we could do it with 8 students. Great, and or cut down on the support. We provided all the transportation support this year, and we actually paid for everybody's housing in Berkeley. That was really expensive, and we could kind of cut back on some of those if we wanted to, but I'm hoping that one of the clearest messages I leave this meeting with, and the mentor surveys, is kind of a sense of kind of consensus about the 10 weeks because we left last year with a pretty clear sense, well, let's try 8 weeks, and I was skeptical, and I think that 10 weeks would be better, but I'd like to hear from folks about that. And then let me just, the last thing I'll say is you will get another request from me or from Aude probably in September to be listed for a student for next summer. So regardless of whether we get this proposal, we're running the program next summer, we will decide whether it will be a 10-week program or an 8-week program, how many students. But regardless, we will need project descriptions from you and commitment that I will take 1 or 2 students, and we will then assemble the application materials so that they'll go out probably in November. So you'll have like a few weeks to send those in. If you've already been listed in the proposal, you can just send us an email saying, use my description that I sent you earlier, so we don't ask you to duplicate that. So that's kind of the tempo of what's coming up. So with that, and finally, we are going to have a discussion at the lunch session tomorrow. Aude will still be here, of undergraduate research programs, and we'll discuss both next summer's program and the proposal. So Bill, you have a
administrative point. What about prior NSF support for this? Does normally MPI has to give prior NSF support?
So the RU site proposals are only allowed to have 2 PI, a PI and a co-PI. And I'll be the PI, and Mazdak will be the co-PI, and I will have my RU as prior support, and Mazdak will have to decide what of his, we'll have to have something from Mazdak that is appropriate for the proposal.
So are you going to do UWIN for your prior support? Okay.
Yeah.
Just as long as that's covered.
Yeah.
There's been a glitch in.
Obviously, the building on UWIN, so once we
Right.
actually incorporated it.
Right. No, that's not a problem. I just want to make sure you add that section.
Yeah.
Tend to throw away.
We're going to have a very strong prior support because I have 29 years of success running my site RU, which will be my prior support. Plus, for the UWIN piece, we have a successful first year of the program. And the big question the program officer asked me was, can you really run 2 RUs? And I'm trying to run in 2 RUs. So I think we kind of pulled it off. So other.
But that's it. So let's you and I talk about it.
Yeah, please.
Make sure you.
Absolutely. That was very clear that was the nail that needed to be hit. So other comments about our research program?
So just simply, how does that RU program work? Everybody's all over the place.
Just the way we've done it. So we're hoping actually, and this is in the mentor survey, and we'll talk about this tomorrow, to bring the students back together if we have a little bit more. A week earlier than we did, and we'd end with maybe this week where the students at the same time as the stakeholder meetings, and I think Carlene might shoot me for trying to add another meeting, but so that the students might actually be able to present at this meeting is kind of the current thinking. And then the mentors distributed, we had 3 mentor meetings over the course, like 1 before the summer, 2 during the summer, virtual phone meetings, and 2 meetings a week with the students virtually, so that's kind of logistically. Other questions? So please come to our, Mary.
If your institution already has other existing RU programs, and they are already asking not an RU student this summer, but they have a breadth of possible programs. And we could also connect to other RUs and have students do projects, not necessarily only funded by this new RU or UWIN, but also kind of connect across other RU programs, which would help the students have other compadres.
Yeah. So one of the things I'll be honest with you about, almost certainly one of the filters I will use in what projects and people and institutions to include in the proposal, if I have the wonderful opportunity to have more than I can fit, is the potential for the student to have some sort of social compadre situation at their institution. It's definitely I think that's going to be one of the factors that we see was associated with differences in satisfaction in some of the elements of this past summer's student experiences. Those places where students had a kind of some fellow.
And another thing, I don't know, and you may already have this, but graduate students as mentors for the undergraduates are really helpful
as additional mentors. I'll tell you, you don't want to write that into the proposal, is that the primary mentor of the students is going to be a grad student. That won't.
But you have multiple mentors.
But that is a strength, right? Absolutely. So if you're going to send in a piece for this, you can be keeping in mind these sorts of factors when you send an email to me. So I think we're over time, right? So thank you very much.